All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Saira Mujtaba and with me is VC Pramod. The headlines. Union Cabinet clears second tranche of PLI scheme to boost manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules. Also gives nod to national logistics policy. Government approves modifications in scheme for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. Offers 50% incentive for manufacturing semiconductors. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says Prime Minister Narendra Modi's practical attitude played a key role in transforming Indo-US relationship. Home Minister Amit Shah says government will continue zero-tolerance policy against left-wing extremism and terrorism. Security forces win decisive victory in the ongoing fight against left-wing extremism across the country, establish permanent camps of security forces in Maoist strongholds in Jharkhand and Bihar. Centre asks Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi governments to strive for achieving zero stubble burning. Prime Minister to inaugurate National Conference of Environment Ministers in Gujarat through video conferencing tomorrow. India wins UN award for its initiative to control and prevent hypertension under the National Health Mission. And in women's cricket, India defeat England by 88 runs in second ODI at Canterbury to take unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. And now the news in detail. The Union Cabinet has approved the production-linked incentive scheme on National Programme on High-Efficiency Solar PV Modules for achieving manufacturing capacity of gigawatt scale in high-efficiency solar PV modules. Briefing media in New Delhi, Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said there will be an outlay of 19,500 crore rupees for achieving manufacturing capacity of gigawatt scale. He said the aim is to build an ecosystem for the manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules in the country, which will reduce import dependence in the renewable energy sector. The step will also strengthen the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative and help in employment generation.
पूर्व अनुमोदित स्कीम में अगर आप देखेंगे तो एक ही ऑक्शन विंडो रखी गई थी और उसमें कंपनियों के चयन में ऐसे मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को प्राथमिकता दी गई थी जो फुल्ली इंटीग्रेटेड सोलर पीवी प्लांट स्थापित करेंगे, यानी कि उसमें पॉलीसिलिकॉन से लेकर वेफर एवं सोलर पीवी सेल्स और मॉड्यूल का निर्माण करेंगे। लेकिन ट्रांच 2 स्कीम में इंटीग्रेशन की मात्रा के आधार पर ऑक्शन की 3 अलग अलग विंडोज रखी गई हैं। पहली फुल्ली इंटीग्रेटेड प्रोजेक्ट यानी कि पॉलीसिलिकॉन से लेकर वेफर सेल एंड मॉड्यूल्स बनाए जाएंगे और दूसरी वेफर से लेकर सेल्स एंड मॉड्यूल्स बनाने की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी जो होगी और तीसरी विंडो में सेल और मॉड्यूल्स बनाने का प्रावधान रखा गया है।
The scheme will bring direct investment of around 94,000 crore rupees in the solar PV module sector. It is estimated that 1,95,000 of direct employment and 7,80,000 indirect employment will be generated in the country. 1,37,000 crore rupees import substitution is expected with the implementation of the scheme. The Cabinet also approved modifications in the Programme for Development of Semiconductors and Display Manufacturing Ecosystem. Mr. Thakur said there will be 50% incentives for semiconductor fabs or semiconductor fabrication plant across technology nodes as well as for compound semiconductors, packaging and other semiconductor facilities. In another decision, the government also approved the National Logistics Policy. The policy was unveiled by Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently to bring down logistics costs, ensure seamless movement of goods in the country, and improve efficiency and global positioning. The policy sets targets to improve the country's logistics performance index ranking and bring India into the top 25 countries by 2030. In Morning Matters, now let's listen to a discussion on cabinet decisions. The participants are A.K. Bhattacharya, economic analyst, and Shishir Sinha, journalist.
Mr. Bhattacharya, let me begin with the National Logistic Policy which was announced by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet has approved this policy. Aim is to bring down to the single digit by 2030. What does it mean for the industry and what does it mean for the consumer?
The National Logistics Policy, as you know, is going to work in tandem with the Gati Shakti policy. And the current logistics cost in the economy for undertaking any economic activity is stated to be around 12% of GDP. Now, this is considered to be very high, and if we want to achieve our goals of being a developed economy in the next couple of decades, then we need to bring that cost down to speed up our pace of economic activity with greater efficiency. The global target is around 8% of GDP is the cost of logistics. So I would imagine that to bring it down from 12% to 8% of GDP, this national logistics policy will help us to reach those global benchmarks. The second important point in brief is that the logistics performance index, we are now at around number 35. And the goal in the national logistics policy is to take us up among the top 25 countries. So I think these are the two major goals that the national logistics policy hopes to achieve.
Now coming to the second decision which was approved by Union Cabinet, and that was second stage of national program on high efficiency solar PV modules. If we understand correctly, by 2030 we have a target of achieving 500 gigawatt of renewable energy, and out of those 500 gigawatt, 280 gigawatts from the solar energy. So what kind of role you see of this decision making in achieving that target?
As the cabinet discussed, they looked at an outlay of around 19,500 crore for creating these manufacturing capacities in high efficiency solar PV modules. Now, this will be a big boost to the country's renewable energy program. As you would know, that because of the various climate adaptation and climate mitigation commitments the government has made, we need to create more supplies of these solar photovoltaics, which in a very competitive and efficient way, so that our capacity to set up and supply a more solar power increases. As I understand, the expectation is that about 65,000 megawatt per annum of manufacturing capacity with integrated solar photovoltaic modules is the target. If this 19,500 crore of production-linked incentive scheme can encourage solar photovoltaic sector, and if the production-linked incentive scheme can encourage more companies to undertake these activities, then India's larger goal of creating more solar capacity and renewable energy will be helping. And remember that this will also bring in about 1 lakh crore or 94,000 crore of investments in this area, which will be an additional gain.
Coming to the third major decision, which is related with the semiconductor and display manufacturing ecosystem, some modifications have been made, and the government is saying that we need to become a kind of self-dependent, or what we call as the Atmanirbhar in this particular field. How these modifications are going to help?
Well, this is a very ambitious project that semiconductor fabrication facilities, manufacturing of them, these things are critical, because the manner in which the chips increasingly being used in all kinds of products and applications, we cannot be continuously be dependent on just on imports. And as you also know, that there are very few countries who produce them. So we need to build domestic capacity in this area. Right now, what we are talking about is of a certain type of chips. We are not into the nano chip category as yet, but nevertheless, a beginning has to be made. This is a high-cost, capital-intensive project. It requires huge supply of water. It requires uninterrupted supply of electricity. So what the government has done is providing very generous fiscal support to this program for developing semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem in the country. They're providing fiscal support of around 50% of the project cost. They're providing 50% fiscal support for capital expenditure for setting up variety of semiconductors and fabrication facilities, including silicon photonics and sensor fabrication units. So I think it's a good beginning. We need, for strategic reasons, to start creating domestic capacity, because we do have the design capacity, but we don't have the manufacturing capacity, and that is what is intended to be achieved through this policy step.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya, for talking to us.
Thank you.
External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has said Prime Minister Narendra Modi's practical attitude played a key role in transforming India-US relationship in the last 8 years. Mr. Jaishankar was addressing a session at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs in New York. The minister said, for nearly 5 decades, India looked upon the United States with suspicion, and its overall foreign policy assessment of the US was of deep caution. But the country has now overcome the assumptions to forge a different relationship with America. He said Prime Minister Modi has no ideological baggage, and this has helped India-US ties to grow in tremendous ways during the last 8 years. In a significant achievement and recognition to country's efforts against hypertension, India has won a UN award for its initiative to control and prevent hypertension under the government's National Health Mission. The Indian Hypertension Control Initiative IHCI, which is a large-scale hypertension intervention under National Health Mission, has been recognized for its exceptional work within India's existing primary healthcare system. The IHCI won the 2022 UN Interagency Task Force and WHO Special Program on Primary Healthcare Award at the UN General Assembly's side event held at New York in USA.
The Central Reserve Police Force CRPF Director General Kuldeep Singh has said that Budha Pahad in Jharkhand, which had been a stronghold of Maoists for 3 decades, has now been cleared of them successfully and permanent bases of security forces have been established. Addressing media in New Delhi on successes achieved by the security forces against left-wing extremism or LWE, Mr. Singh said, since April this year, they carried out 3 operations to establish the camps of security forces and bring the area under control. He said security forces have won a decisive victory in the ongoing battle against LWE across the country. He said Maoists were also successfully ousted from the extremely inaccessible areas of Chakraband and Bhimaband in Bihar, and permanent security forces camps have been set up.
अप्रैल 2022 के बाद से हम लोगों ने झारखंड में बहुत सारे ऐसे अभियान चलाए जिस अभियानों के तहत नक्सलवाद की कमर वहां से टूटी और उसके फलस्वरूप हम लोग बुरा पहाड़ पे पूरा कब्जा कर पाए। बुरा पहाड़ पे पहला कदम हम लोगों ने इस महीने की 5 तारीख को रखा, लेकिन अब परसों वहां पे हेलीकॉप्टर भी उतार के फोर्सेस को वहां पहुंचाया गया है बड़ी मात्रा में। पूरी तरह से बुरा पहाड़ को साफ कर लिया गया है और जितने भी फोर्सेज वहां पहुंची हैं उनका परमानेंट कैंप स्टैब्लिश कर दिया गया है। केंद्रीय गृह मंत्री के मार्गदर्शन में सुरक्षा बलों द्वारा चलाए गए अभियान से हिंसा की घटनाओं और उसके भौगोलिक प्रसार दोनों में लगातार गिरावट आई है।
Mr. Singh also said that incidents of LWE have come down significantly by 77% from the highest level of 2,258 in 2009 to 509 in 2021. He also said that the area of influence of Maoists has also reduced significantly in districts, coming down from 96 districts in 2010 to only 39 districts in 2022.
बिहार में कुछ और जो महत्वपूर्ण उपलब्धियां रही हैं, पिछले साल बिहार में करीब 4 नक्सल मारे गए थे और करीब 36 दुर्दांत माओवादियों को पकड़ा गया। बिहार को हम कह सकते हैं कि ऑलमोस्ट अभी पूरी तरह से नक्सल मुक्त हो गया है।
Soon after, Union Home Minister Amit Shah took to Twitter to congratulate the CRPF and the security forces on the decisive success, saying that the government will continue the zero-tolerance policy against left-wing extremism and terrorism, and this fight will be further intensified. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the PM Cares Fund on Tuesday. A presentation was made on various initiatives undertaken with the help of the PM Cares Fund, including the PM Cares for Children scheme, which is supporting 4,345 children. Trustees appreciated the role played by the fund at a crucial time for the country. Mr. Modi appreciated the people for contributing wholeheartedly to the PM Cares Fund. Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Minister Narendra Singh Tomar has said that food grain production of 149.92 million tons is estimated in the Kharif season 2022-23. The Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Ministry yesterday released the first advance estimates of production of major Kharif crops. As per the estimates, total food grain production in the country is estimated at 149.92 million tons, which is higher by 6.98 million tons in comparison to average food grain production of the previous 5 years.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Union Cabinet clears second tranche of PLI scheme to boost manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules. Also gives nod to national logistics policy. Government approves modifications in scheme for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. Offers 50% incentive for manufacturing semiconductors. External Affairs Minister S. Jayashankar says Prime Minister Narendra Modi's practical attitude played a key role in transforming India-US relationship. Home Minister Amit Shah says government will continue zero-tolerance policy against left-wing extremism and terrorism. Security forces win decisive victory in ongoing fight against left-wing extremism across the country. Establish permanent camps of security forces in Maoist strongholds in Jharkhand and Bihar. Centre asks Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi governments to strive for achieving zero stubble burning. Prime Minister to inaugurate National Conference of Environment Ministers in Gujarat through video conferencing tomorrow. India wins UN award for its initiative to control and prevent hypertension under National Health Mission. And in women's cricket, India defeat England by 88 runs in second ODI at Canterbury to take unassailable 2-0 lead in 3-match series. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Northeast Diary program broadcast every Thursday and Sunday at 5:30 p.m. brings very interesting and enchanting stories from the 8 Indian states of Northeast India. Northeast Diary this week, which is the 22nd of September 2022, brings an exclusive interview with Niku Prasad Sa, heading an NGO called Green Squad Team, which is working on the theme Zero Waste Life. Hoping to see you there.
The centre has asked the governments of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi to strive for achieving zero stubble burning in the coming months. Agriculture and Farmers Welfare Minister Narendra Singh Tomar yesterday reviewed the preparedness of the states for management of paddy stubble burning. Mr. Tomar said 600 crore rupees have already been provided to the states this financial year. He stressed that states must chalk out a comprehensive action plan at the micro level to effectively control stubble burning. He directed the state officials to create awareness in the farmers that stubble burning leads to loss of soil fertility in the long run. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the National Conference of Environment Ministers to be held in Gujarat on Friday through video conferencing. He will also address the gathering on the occasion. Taking forward the spirit of cooperative federalism, the conference is being convened to create further synergy amongst the central and state governments in formulating better policies on various issues. The 2-day conference is being organized on the 23rd and the 24th of September and will have 6 thematic sessions with topics focusing on life, combating climate change, parivesh, forestry management, prevention and control of pollution, wildlife management and plastics and waste management.
In a first-of-its-kind initiative, Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly is all set to have a day reserved today for women legislators to speak and raise women-centric issues in the House. Ahead of this historic moment, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath wrote a letter to all women legislators and told them about the initiatives taken by the government under Mission Shakti scheme. More from our correspondent.
It will be a historic day for UP Assembly when the whole proceedings of the session will reserve for women members only after the question hour. Assembly Speaker Satish Mahana informed the House that a decision to reserve today for women members was taken at the meeting of Business Advisory Committee of the House on September 19th. He said that women members would be allowed to speak during question hour also. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath would also be in House to listen to the issues that the women members may raise. Minister for Parliamentary Affairs Suresh Khanna urged the Speaker that the UP Assembly's staff should also be women today. Ahead of this historic moment, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath wrote a letter to all women legislators and told them about the initiatives taken by his government under Mission Shakti scheme. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
In Tripura, polling for the by-election to the lone Rajya Sabha seat from the state will be held today. Voting will start at 9 a.m. and will continue till 4 p.m. The result will be announced later in the day today. BJP candidate and former Chief Minister Biplab Kumar Dev and CPIM leader Bhanulal Saha are in the fray for the lone seat.
Over the past 75 years since independence, India's largest public service broadcaster, All India Radio, has been the proverbial storyteller for crores of people across the country. All India Radio is celebrating 75 years of freedom with the series Azad Bharat Ki Baat Akashvani ke Saath. It showcases the journey of India since independence in various walks of life through the storytelling of All India Radio. In today's episode,
security means that all people at all times have physical, social and economic access to sufficient safe and nutritious food. India went through a green revolution in the late 1960s and early 1970s, which significantly improved its food grain production. The Green Revolution was followed by the White Revolution under Operation Flood in the 1970s and 1980s. This initiative has revolutionized liquid milk production in the country, making it the largest producer of milk. In order to achieve food security in an equitable manner to all the citizens of India, Parliament enacted National Food Security Act NFSA 2013. It is the largest social welfare program of the world, which ensures access to adequate quantity of quality food at affordable prices to people to live a life with dignity. Special focus is given on the nutritional support to women and children. Nowhere in the world a public distribution system as big in India has been run. It stabilizes food prices and makes food available to poor. PDS not only delivered during COVID-19 pandemic but also improved in many ways. Prime Minister Narendra Modi introduced Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana for free distribution of food grains to feed about 81 crore people per month.
साल 2014 के बाद नए सिरे से काम शुरू किया गया, नई टेक्नोलॉजी को इस परिवर्तन का माध्यम बनाया गया, राशन कार्ड को आधार से लिंक किया और सरकारी राशन की दुकानों में डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी को प्रोत्साहित किया गया। आज संक्रमण के साथ साथ भूखमरी का भी भीषण संकट आ गया है, लेकिन भारत ने संक्रमण की आहट के पहले दिन से ही इस संकट को पहचाना और इस पर काम किया। इसलिए आज दुनिया भर में प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना की प्रशंसा हो रही है। मकसद एक ही है, कोई भारत का मेरा भाई बहन, मेरा कोई भारतवासी भूखा न रहे।
UN World Food Program has hailed India's food security during the pandemic. Bishaw Parajuli Program Representative and Country Director, UNWFP said the vulnerable and marginalized families in India were continued to be buffered against food crisis by its robust targeted public distribution system. Parajuli said providing ration free of cost to 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population under Antyodaya Anna Yojana and priority households.
India's transformation in agriculture in the last 50 years from food deficit country with 50 million tons plus to now the estimated harvest prospects is about 316 million is a major transformation. The food safety net program India runs assisting nearly 1 billion people is one of the greatest example. Plus the various support program India has supporting small farmers, support in agriculture inputs, the financial provisions, the market, the whole supply chain networks. The World Food Program is really delighted for India's offer of partnership, and of course India's support is absolutely warmly welcome, and in WFP we want to see this only as a beginning.
Integration of Aadhaar with PDS helps in better identification of beneficiaries. One Nation One Ration Card ONORC scheme helps digitization portability of ration cards, SMS-based monitoring and web-based portals, and bring ease of life to beneficiaries. The implementation of ONORC scheme was initiated in August 2019. This ensures seamless delivery of subsidized food security entitlements to all beneficiaries covered under the National Food Security Act, irrespective of the physical location. The ONORC scheme empowers the migratory population, laborers, daily wages, rag pickers, street dwellers and temporary workers in organized and unorganized sectors who frequently change their place of dwelling to be self-reliant in food security. Mera Ration mobile application has been launched to provide real-time information about ONORC to the beneficiaries and is available in 13 languages.
In Iran, 9 people have been killed and several others injured as massive anti-hijab protests continue in the country following the custodial death of a 22-year-old woman, Mahsa Amini, after being detained by the official morality police. Her death sparked protests in the capital Tehran and western Iran. The unrest has now spread to more than 20 major cities. Video footages of the protest showed furious women cutting their hair and burning hijabs in a bid to fight back against the mandatory veiling of women. The women have united against what they say is a gender apartheid regime and are demanding their basic rights. Meanwhile, in an address to the UN General Assembly yesterday, US President Joe Biden said Americans stood with the brave women of Iran who right now are demonstrating to secure their basic rights.
Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization of 300,000 reservists with immediate effect to fight in Ukraine. In a rare televised address to the nation, Putin said he will use all available means to protect his people if his country is threatened. He said the move is necessary under the circumstances. Putin has also accused the West of engaging in nuclear blackmail against Russia and said the country has lots of weapons to reply. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu claimed that mobilizing the country's reserves will add around 300,000 civilians to the armed forces and students will be exempted from the exercise. The step which Russia took is the first since World War II. In women's cricket, India defeated host England by 88 runs in their second one-day international at St. Lawrence Ground in Canterbury to take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the three-match series. Put into bat first, Indian Eves posted a record total of 333 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the stipulated 50 overs, riding on Captain Harmanpreet Kaur's unbeaten 143 of just 111 and Harleen Deol's 58 of 72 balls. This was the visitors' highest ever ODI total against England. Chasing the massive total, the hosts were bundled out for 245 runs in 44.2 overs. And now an overview of today's newspapers. Ratan Tata, former SC judge, among PM Care's trustees, writes Hindustan Times. Dailies have also noticed the passing away of comedian Raju Srivastava. The Pioneer headlines, Funniest Man faces the final curtain. All dailies have noticed the developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. The Tribune writes, Putin orders partial mobilization of 3 lakh reservists. While Hindustan Times headlines, not a bluff, Putin ups Ukraine war ante, makes nuke threat. And finally, 14th century ceremonial sword that was sold in Hyderabad to a British general in the early 20th century is set to return to India. The sword is among the 7 objects being repatriated by Glasgow Life, which manages Glasgow's museums. The Hindu says, a century later, Nizam's sword set to return to India.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast across the country today. National capital Delhi will have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain or thunder showers and heavy rain at 1 or 2 places. The temperature will hover between 23 and 31 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have a generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Minimum temperature was 23 and maximum will be around 27 degrees Celsius. Chennai will have a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The minimum temperature was 26 degrees Celsius and maximum will be around 36 degrees Celsius. While Kolkata will have a generally cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The temperature will hover between 27 and 32 degrees Celsius. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Union Cabinet clears second tranche of PLI scheme to boost manufacturing of high-efficiency solar PV modules. Also gives nod to national logistics policy. Government approves modifications in scheme for development of semiconductors and display manufacturing ecosystem. Offers 50% incentive for manufacturing semiconductors. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar says Prime Minister Narendra Modi's practical attitude played a key role in transforming Indo-US relationship. Home Minister Amit Shah says government will continue zero-tolerance policy against left-wing extremism and terrorism. Security forces win decisive victory in the ongoing fight against left-wing extremism across the country, establish permanent camps of security forces in Maoist strongholds in Jharkhand and Bihar. Centre asked Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Delhi governments to strive for achieving zero stubble burning. Prime Minister to inaugurate National Conference of Environment Ministers in Gujarat through video conferencing tomorrow. India wins UN award for its initiative to control and prevent hypertension under the National Health Mission. And in women's cricket, India defeat England by 88 runs in the second ODI at Canterbury to take unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a great day.